Okay, so the last time we met, we talked about the definition of creative writing, what differentiates creative writing from other forms of writing, right? Um, for instance, um, creative writing is imaginative and creative. Creative writing is based on inventiveness, the inventive ingenuity of the writer, and it does not usually aim to depict facts. Okay, though it can utilize facts, and it's different from the work of uh, non-creative writers, non-fiction, like history or journalism. Okay, because the journalist aims to write what is real, what has happened. The creative writer aims to write what can happen, what is possible. Okay, and we went on to talk about the sources of creative writing, like myths, legends, history, and so on and so forth. So, and I gave examples of how myths function in creative writing because it helps to explain inexplicable situations. So, even though we are modern, we cannot ignore myth because the human mind always requires explanation for things that it cannot comprehend. So I suppose we ended the class, and I asked that you go and check if there are other myths around you that you can discern and bring back to class. And so if there's anyone who did that, the person can speak to us. Right? Anyone? Anyone who was able to find out about myths in this area? No one? Who? Okay, so what's your name? Your name is what?
Comfort Sylvester Oga.
Comfort. So what's the myth?
The myth is all about how, in the ancient decades, when it has to do with a river where people were asked not to go there, but at a particular period of time, they disobeyed the gods and went there. So the river became undrinkable. It was not safe for people to drink. This myth explained that at a certain period of time, there was a particular this there was a particular event that said that nobody should go to the river and fetch water.
Okay, so where is this myth? Which culture is the myth domiciled?
It is, I don't actually know.
You have to know whether it is an Ibibio myth or Yoruba myth. Eh? An myth. Okay. So which particular river is that? So I didn't get you. Which river?
Ikoti Bitikwe River. That is another.
Okay. Okay. Let's just say let's be specific. Say creation myth. Say creation myth. You don't need to repeat that. It's just like it's say example, right? Let's just say creation myth, and we have the creation story in the Bible. Okay. Can you think of any other creation myth? In any other culture? Okay.
In San, in West Africa, Southern Africa, they
Where
believe
Southern
that
Africa? Where is
San, S-A-N, they believe
SAN?
S-A-N,
Where is that?
in Southern Africa.
Okay.
They believe that there is a certain god called Khan, spell capital letter K-A-A-N-G,
Okay.
created things, and they believe that that god is the one that created them and their animals, and they live together in harmony.
Okay. Is there any other creation myth? Is there anyone here from the West, like any of the Western states in Nigeria? Anyone? No one is from the West here. You? Okay. Which state are you from? Ogun State. Good. So there's a creation myth in the Yoruba culture.
Yes, sir.
Hmm? Okay, tell us about it. What do you know about creation myth in the Yoruba culture?
Okay, the creation.
What's your name?
My name is Oluwafermi.
Okay.
The creation myth in the Yoruba culture is about a god, the god of iron. So, in this
The creation myth in the Yoruba culture has it that at the beginning, the whole world was water. Okay, there were no human beings on the earth. And one day, one of the gods descended um, with sun and chicken in an eggshell, sun in an eggshell, and then a cock, a large chicken, you might call it. And then, after taking permission the from the main god, and they call it the Dudowa or any other name. So when they poured the sand from the shell to the water, it became earth, um, and the chicken spread it to different parts of the river. Wherever the sand touched became earth, and where the sand did not touch became still remain ocean. That's why you have earth and ocean. people across cultures have been in the business of imagining how life began, how life started, including Ibibio people. We also have the creation myth. But the one I would like to talk about is how death came to be, why people die. People were not supposed to die. People were meant to live forever. Just that someone made a mistake when the first man died. When the first man died, they sent a dog to go and find out from God what's to be done, because the people have never experienced death before, so they didn't know what to do. Okay? So they sent a dog to go and find out what's to be done to the dead person, to the body. So when dog got to God, God told him what to do. The person should be kept outside and poured ashes and will stay there for 3 days, after the person will wake up and live again. But when Dove was coming back, he saw bones on the road and decided to help himself to the bones, thus wasting time. So they now sent the dove to go and find out. When they didn't see the dove coming back, they sent the dove. Okay? And the dove went and got the solution. But by the time the dove got back, okay, the second one they sent was the vulture. They actually sent the vulture as the second person. The vulture went, got the solution, came back and saw a carcass on the road, and then stayed there to help himself. Okay? And time passed before they now sent the dove to go. The dove got the solution and came back. By the time the dove came back, 3 days have passed. And so nothing could be done again except to bury the person. So that's why whenever people die now, we bury them. Right? If that first messenger had come back, then people will not die again. They will just keep them outside the backyard and then pour ash, and after 3 days the person will come back to live again. But those two messengers, the dog and the vultures, are to blame for people not living forever, because they were distracted by what they saw on the way when they were coming back. Okay, so that justifies that early men have always been asking the question about things they don't understand. So that myth answers the question, why do we die and are buried? Why people are buried when they are dead? Okay? So because when they now told God that 3 days have passed, God said there's nothing to be done again, you just have to bury the person. Okay? And you can look at, so you could see that myth then is a fantastic story of unknown authorship that tries to explain inexplicable phenomena. So you do not only define, you exemplify. Okay? You not only define, you exemplify. And you give the definition and then you give the example. That's how we work in literature and literature department. So what is legend? What is legend? Legend refers to stories about important members of society, important persons, important members of society whose actions help to sustain the society beyond its difficult moments. Legends are stories of important persons in societies whose actions helped to sustain the society beyond its difficult moment. Legend can also refer to the person in these stories, the heroes in these stories. Legend can also refer to the person in these stories, especially if their actions were so great that they saved the society untold hardship, death, or disgrace. So legend is a story about heroism. Legend is a story about heroism. Legend is a story about people who acted like heroes when others did not want to stand up, or when others could not stand up to act. So you can say that a legend is a story about heroism. A legend is a story about heroism. The story of heroes. People in the past who sacrificed themselves for the good of society. People in the past who stood out by what they did, by their actions. Great deeds that they performed, which others could not perform in society. Okay? Human stories celebrate heroism. Human stories celebrate heroism. So even when you are writing today as a creative writer, remember that you must create one character whose actions are distinguishable from the actions of others. Maybe others are the bad guys, and then there's one good guy. There's one good guy among the bad guys. That's the hero. That's the legend that you are trying to bring up. Okay? So, human story celebrates heroism. And that is the place of legends. Okay? The stories we tell are stories of people who rose to the challenges of their time. The stories we tell should celebrate people who rose to the challenges of the time. Every period in human history has its own challenges. Okay? And the majority of the people will find it difficult to face those challenges. Only one or two, very few people, will be able to stand up to face the challenges of the time. Okay? For instance, during slavery, during slave trade, we had many human beings being sold as slaves, right, to white people. But most of the slaves were willing to serve their masters in whatever conditions, being starved, being beaten, being denied their humanity and all of that. But you could still find some slaves who stood up and resisted that situation and organized the other slaves to fight for their freedom. those ones who stood up and refused to accept that situation are legends. They are the heroes. Okay? During colonialism, many Africans were under the British or European rule. And many people accepted that situation, that condition, that the Europeans were their masters. Okay? People they should work for, that they were inferior to the Europeans. But some Africans said no. The white man and the black man were created by God, and they should be equal. No one should subject another person to their rule. The black man can rule themselves. And so they decided to fight against the domination of the white man and said that the white man must return to their country and allow Africans to rule themselves. And these were the nationalist heroes, call them the nationalist heroes, and they are our legends. Okay? They are legends. Something that was accepted by everybody in that time, they said no, that cannot happen. And then they organized the other people and said this is why this situation is wrong. And they won at the end of the day. They are the legends. Okay? Someone like Martin Luther King Jr., who resisted white racism in America, is a legend. Okay, when most blacks thought that they could never change the situation, that the white man, even though they were the minority, should dominate them, caused them untold suffering, made them to live in hell. But people like Malcolm X, people like Martin Luther King Jr. stood up and said, I can see a time when black and white will be equal in this country, and they decided to fight for the rights of black people. Okay? Those are legends. Mandela in South Africa, Nelson Mandela in South Africa is a legend because he fought against apartheid, the segregation of white and black people in South Africa. He had to go to prison for 27 years, but he did not compromise, did not fail in his vision, did not forget his vision, and came out from the prison and still became president and freed his people. Today, black people are the presidents and other leaders in South Africa. When Mandela was fighting, it was not so. The white people who were the minority were ruling the black people. But someone stood up and said, this is not possible. This should not be. Okay? And the prosecutor, he must have lost his freedom, must have lost his comfort. But he did it for the people, he didn't do it for himself, he did it for the generality of the people. That's why you call them legends. Okay? So, the reason legends are not forgotten is that they live in the hearts of the people. The reason legends are not forgotten is that they live in the hearts of the people. And that's why their stories are told as examples from generation to generation. And their stories inspire others to also stand up and face the challenges of that time. So when we are writing, as a creative writer, if you weave your story around an individual who refuses to accept the status quo, it's very likely that that story is going to sell, because you are creating heroes. That is the structure of the human story. People who decided to act in a selfless way, denying themselves for the good of others. We have these stories across time and across humanity. And it remains one of the ways of telling good stories. The child who is different from the other children in school, while others are dancing in the disco hall, in the party hall, that particular one person chose to study his or her books. Okay, that's heroism. That's a legend. All right. So before now, you see, legends were people who had physical strength. All right, like Samson. Samson would just come to this hall and push this pillar. The whole house wall will fall. That's heroism. Okay. But you don't have to be so great and powerful now to be a hero. Maybe a simple act of kindness. Okay? Helping an elderly person to lift a load. Helping an elderly person to cross the road. Okay? It's an act of self-sacrifice that can be counted as heroism. The parents who denied themselves to send their children to school. They are heroes, they are legends. Okay? Resistance to evil is heroism. So you don't have to be like Undertaker. Okay? You don't have to be as powerful as Undertaker. In fact, heroism has moved away from the muscular strength to the moral strength, to the intellectual strength. Right? So because as each age moves or progresses, we have changes in values. So we have now converted physical strength now to moral strength and intellectual strength. And we now celebrate students who go on the competition on the world stage and beat the other contestants and bring the prize home. Okay? So there was a 9-year-old child who won the mathematics prize in the United States, beating 40 other countries. That's intellectual heroism, and the person is a legend. It's a no mean feat. Okay? So you need to understand this when you are creating your character in the stories that you tell. So that these stories will act as inspiration to, or source of inspiration to anyone who reads it. Because literature inspires as well. But from all the other functions like entertainment and education and information, literature is a veritable source of inspiration, or should be a veritable source of inspiration to all who read it. So we want you to tell stories that will lift our country. We want you to tell stories that will inspire people to act right and do good, especially in a place where everybody is given to negativity. All right? So, for instance, in a country like Nigeria, where we don't have good leaders, you can tell the story of the rising of a particular leader that galvanizes the people to bring about the needed change. Dreams are sources of creative writing. Dreams are sources of creative writing. Dream itself is an imaginative world. Dream is an imaginative world, and the author usually dwells in an imaginative world. The author's world is the world of imagination. The author's world is the world of imagination. And dreams and visions are aspects of imagination. In fact, you must understand that literature is structured like dream. Literature is structured like what? Like dreams. Because you see, when you wake up from your dream, you may say, oh, it is not real. Because everything that happened there was so fantastic. Okay? You were hungry and then you fell asleep and then you found yourself in Mr. Biggs or Crunches. You understand? Or Chicken Republic. Okay? And in that dream you were eating, superb, delicious meals. Rice with fried rice with chicken, ice cream, jollof rice, assorted meats. You were just enjoying yourself. You were taking juice. And so when you wake up, you're like, I wish I could just dream again. and if it was someone that woke you up, you will not greet that person again. For waking you up from your beautiful dream. But then again, you need to understand that that dream is your soul's aspiration to live in cuisine splendor. Alright, which you couldn't afford when you were in the real life. After all, you slept hungry. So your soul was aspiring to have delicious meals. Okay? And this is what literature is all about, like I've said. Sometimes we tell stories to cover a lack. We tell stories which reflect our fantasies of what life should be like. Okay? Or the lack of it, if you want to be realistic. And that is why literature is like a dream, because it is not real. Okay? You are enjoying all those delicacies in Chicken Republic, but it's not real. So you could also write your literature that way. Talking about possible events that have not actually happened. They are possible, they can happen. They are believable, it's possible that it can happen, but they did not happen. That's literature. That's why I said that literature is structured like dream or vision. So, in a country like Nigeria, where we have bad leadership, hardship, fuel scarcity, high cost of food prices, and high cost of living, you can depict a Nigeria of your dream. Okay? Nigeria of your dream where the fuel is very cheap. There's free transportation for students wherever they want to go to. Like the government sends people to go and pick in your house and take you to school. Okay? Because such a Nigeria is possible, right? Alright? Nigeria where you don't have to worry about your school fees. School is free. Don't pay your school fees. Alright? And the lecture halls are not hot because AC blows everywhere. Okay? And in your university, they are very strict about lunchtime, which is 12 noon. Then it's 12 noon, lectures are stopped for a moment, and students are allowed for 1 hour to go and have their lunch, which is free. Lunch is free in the school's canteen. Alright? So it's possible. And in that university of yours, the university of your dream, maybe gain admission into the university, they will give you a laptop. And you don't need to buy data because internet is free. Okay? So, and in that university, nobody fails any course. If you fail any course, the lecturers on the course will teach you again and give you another exam, simpler questions. Because it is believed that no student is unintelligent. Okay, no student is dumb. Okay, it's just that maybe they were not properly taught, maybe they had some problem. They will call you and ask you, were you psychologically stressed during that exam that you couldn't write? Okay, because they know that on your own you won't fail the exam. Something could have been wrong. You understand? There's something that was wrong that day. What happened? Did you have heartbreak? They will ask, did someone annoy you that morning? Because your emotional state will not have allowed you to write the exam when somebody annoyed you. Okay? So you could write about that. But that's what we call utopia. Utopian literature. Utopian literature. Utopian vision. Then you're having a utopian vision. You're looking away from the solid realities around you. And you're painting a future of your dream. Away from what is happening. So that's utopia. Okay? By that we mean ideal, perfect situation. Okay? Perfect situation. As a student in that university, the government gives you a card that you can use to buy anything you want in the market for that particular month. Okay? Whenever you want to buy something, you take your card to the mall or supermarket, your student card, and then the month is loaded, and then you pay whatever you want. You don't have to spend your money. It's utopia. Okay? And this is how people imagine into being kind of societies that they want to live. Because writers do not only write about realities, they write about realities that are possible in the future. So this is utopian literature. Literature that talks about a perfect situation or an ideal situation in the society. But then again, dreams and visions are not only the source of literature, nightmares are also the source of literature. Perhaps you must understand, there's a difference between dream and nightmare, right? Very good. You have dream, then you have nightmare. Okay, we describe dream when the person who slept hungry was lavishing some Chicken Republic. Okay? And then there's nightmare. It's nightmare. Has anyone ever experienced nightmare before? Okay? Anyone ever experienced a nightmare before? You've had nightmare. Okay? No one. Okay, someone has had nightmare. Okay? Where the masquerade, all the masquerades in your village you understand? And carrying sharp machetes after you. And as you were running in the bush, in the forest, thick forest, like this, everywhere is dark, right? You were running, crying, shouting, Jesus, Jesus. Alright? That wonderful name that everyone calls. Then at the point he fell down, right? He fell down, and then the masquerades gathered, and then they raised their machete to cut you, and then you look out now, sweating, starting to the shivering, and your mom came and said, "What's wrong, Esther? Esther, my child, what is the matter?" Okay? I said, Mommy, I had a bad dream. And I said, let us pray. Understand? Let's pray. Okay? Let's pray against our village people. Okay? That are uncles that are in the village last Christmas. He's not happy about my beautiful children. Okay? So nightmares are tragic in nature. Nightmares are tragic in nature. And in literature, they represent solid realities. They represent solid realities. Realities. But you know, there are some people that when the masquerades are pursuing them like that, they will run and run and run. And after a while, they will start flying. Right? They start flying. And the masquerade will be below, seeing him or her flying up. You cannot touch him. Okay? So most of the things happening in Nigeria today are nightmarish. Are what? Nightmarish. Nightmarish. They're horrible. Can't imagine. So you could decide to write based on what you perceive as the reality in society. Okay? You can write about a country that produces crude oil but has no fuel. Okay? I write about a country that gives another country 24-hour electricity, but they don't have. I can write about a country that is blessed with arable lands, yet they don't have food. Can write about the country where the people are deprived, oppressed, and trampled by their leaders. And these people are only loved during election, when it's election time. The politicians will come and show how much they love them by giving them Indomie, yes, 2 cups of rice. Understand? They give the items they will give these people during election will look like they are sacrificing to the gods. They are making sacrifice to the gods. Like they are making sacrificial offering to the gods. 2 cups of rice. world. No, I usually see rice and the condiments that they used to make the rice. I know there's no fish. Maybe they don't want them to eat fish. There's no fish or meat. Okay? And then maybe 2K or 1K. Right? And that will last the people for 4 years. So the vision in such stories, because they are sad and tragic, is dystopian. What? Dystopian. Vision in such stories, because they are sad and tragic, is dystopian. Vision in such nightmare stories, because they are sad and tragic, is nothing but dystopian. Sad, and tragic. It's dystopian. Dystopian is in the wall. And dystopian is the opposite of utopian. Dystopian because it states things at the worst that can possibly happen. Dystopian literature tells about the worst that can possibly happen in a given situation. For instance, a dystopian story can deal with the apocalypse. A dystopian story can deal with apocalypse. Apocalyptic stories talk about the end of the world, the end of time, the end of time. In Western societies, apocalyptic stories could have its causes in the nuclear crisis in contemporary times. Some would imagine what a third world war would look like, how a third world war will be fought. Especially at the time I said that an apocalyptic story deals with end of time, end of days, and that in modern world literature, especially in the Western tradition, an apocalyptic story can have its causes in the nuclear crisis in our contemporary society. And that some of these stories could imagine what a third world war would look like. What a third world war would look like. So then remember that literature is never divorced from the issues in society, from the current issues in society. So if you're going to be a creative writer, you have to be current, all right, on the issues in your environment. So these writers might be concerned about what a third world war will look like if you have the time when the nuclear clock is close to midnight. You have the time when the nuclear clock is what? Close to midnight. Midnight. It is assumed that if the nuclear clock strikes midnight, humanity will be taken back to the medieval time. The nearer the nuclear clock is to midnight, the nearer we are to a catastrophic nuclear event. I suppose you know that the nuclear bombs were first dropped in the World War. And since then, man has become more and more sophisticated in manufacturing these deadly weapons, especially the superpower. So it would be dystopian for nuclear weapons to be released and the entire humanity lost within seconds. Okay? Because the US might send its own to Russia, Russia sends its own to the US, and when it's sent to Europe, that everywhere everything evaporates in a matter of days, and we are back to the Stone Age. And so writers imagine us with all our tall skyscrapers, all our computer network, all our tech, to go back to the Stone Age when we are trying to strike two stones to bring about fire. And why is that dystopian imagination necessary? Why is that dystopian imagination necessary? To deter these warmongers and let them see the consequences of their actions before they actually experience them. And that's what literature does. Literature can also point you to a brighter future. And also point you to a dark one if you take certain actions. So they let them live in that post-nuclear society, which has taken humanity backward to a time when they are even looking for fire, so that they can think again about their actions that are provoking war and violence all over the place. So who wouldn't want to have such a powerful tool in society, which is literature, which help us to experience the consequences of our actions before they actually take place. Because then they help you. Once you even take this action, I will take you there. Because you've gone to the future. The writer has pointed it out to you. This is what's going to happen. And you even live in it. You even experience it. But you don't actually experience it. So that's what I'm saying. That your vision can be utopian, and your vision can be dystopian. And now I want someone who understands what I mean by the utopian and dystopian vision to expand to the whole class. And we can then proceed to more important things. So literature depicts human nature. Literature depicts human nature. If you are going to be a creative writer, then you must understand what human nature is all about. because you're going to write about human nature. You're going to depict human nature. The creative writer writes about human beings. And let me make it clear that even when the characters in the story are animals, say lion, say zebra, say hyenas, say snakes, they are human beings. They represent human beings. Perhaps in their dominant characteristics. So, creative writing is always about human world. It's not all the time that the characters will be human. So I'm telling you, even when the characters are not human, the characters are not human beings, characters are cats, dogs, rats, they still refer to human beings. Because there are human beings that behave like rats. You get it? You grab. There are some human beings that behave like rats. Some human beings behave like dogs. Some human beings behave like cat and dogs. Right? I would say like the husband and wife fight like cat and dog. Okay? Some human beings are like lions. Okay? So that is why sometimes they use animal characters, but they don't actually refer to animals, they refer to human beings. And so the writer, the creative writer, and that's you, should be someone who is well versed with human nature. Be well versed with human nature. And so, what is human nature? What is human nature? So we would define human nature as those enduring characteristics often observed in people. Those enduring characteristics that are often observed in people. Human nature constitutes those enduring traits and characteristics that are observed among people. Human nature refers to those unchanging character of the human person, those unchanging character in the human person. The writer, to understand the springs of human action and why people behave the way they do, or for the writer to even be able to predict what an individual would do in certain situations, the writer, the creative writer, has to be schooled in the art of human nature. So if you're schooled in the art of human nature, you can predict human action, and no human action can surprise or shock you, because you know that human beings are capable of so much. The students of human nature will never be surprised by the actions of human beings. And so creative writers are students of human nature. When I have my students come into class, I already predict how they will behave in various nuances of behavior, because I'm schooled in the art of students' behavior. Okay? Or you are dealing with politicians. You should know that you are in treacherous realms. You're dealing with Nigerian traders or Nigerian tailors. and craftsmen. But it's not just about being Nigerian, it's about being human, because these are enduring characteristics of human beings across time and across cultures. So as a creative writer, you need to understand human nature in order to be able to predict human actions, in order to even be able to create characters that look real to life. And so a good creative writer is a lover of human beings. A good creative writer is a lover of human beings. You need to love people. You need to love people, observe them. Okay? See how they smile, see how they laugh, see how they frown, and enjoy every shade of the expressions. You need to enjoy how they walk, how they talk, how they behave, how they act. And you do this by observation. The creative writer is the person that comes into this room and does not say anything, but he's fascinated by what everyone says and does. That's a creative writer. And you're like, this one does not talk, he does not say anything. The person is observing. And in one way or another, we'll be able to replicate that observation in the creation of stories. Because the story has to look like human stories. The speeches have to look like human speeches. The dialogue, the conversation, the tone of voice, how people turn their body, how people smile, how they act. The creative writer observes them all. So knowing all that work and play, that's a creative writer. He knows in this kind of situation, human beings will behave this way, right? In this kind of situation, given this variable, given this circumstance, this is how human beings behave. Okay, let me give you an illustration. Because one of the basic and intrinsic observable traits that forms part of human nature is self-preservation. Is what? Self-preservation. The first law of human nature is what? Self-preservation. When things are good, when the going is good, right? The average human being would try to be altruistic. The average human being would try to be what? Altruistic. They might represent themselves as kind, gentle, forgiving, generous, thinking about the welfare of others. This is what altruism is all about. Empathetic. But put them in an existential situation, and you see that human nature is basically self-preserving. Okay? Say in an examination hall, in a very important exam, okay? Where you have just one pen that you're using, and someone says, help me with your pen for 5 minutes. The mind is not writing anymore. That's when you know that someone is. That's when you know that human nature is what? Self-preserving. I cannot give you my pen. Are you man? Are you okay? Nothing is wrong. I can give you my pen. It's not going to be possible. Alright? In some cases, if you give out the pen, then you'll be thought a fool because you should think of yourself first. Think of others. And so then at that point, all that altruism is gone. But the survival situation is what? The survival situation. Okay? So imagine, again, in the examination hall where two friends are lovingly cheating together, coming together, are cooperating in the cheating. And then maybe they are caught. They say, it's not me, it was the other one. He was the one who called me. He not called me. You know? Because at that point they are trying to preserve themselves, preserve their studentship. They want to go. They want to go home. Right? I didn't do anything. He was the one who said I should do it. Survival situation is when people's lives are threatened. People's lives are threatened. That's survival situation. That's when the self-preservation of man comes up. Okay? So people's lives are threatened. Okay? That's survival situation. For instance, you have the Titanic example. The Titanic example. Where the ship is sinking. The ship is sinking. That's where human nature plays out. You've seen the movie. All the problems of society are reflected. All the problems of society at that particular time in history are reflected in that particular movie. So that Titanic ship now becomes a microcosm of the English society in the 20th century. Microcosm. Right? That means a miniature reflection of the larger case. Alright? The ship becomes the country. Alright? With all the features. That's microcosm. Because then you see class playing out. Class. The class playing out. After all, the poor people occupied the lower decks. The rich people occupied the upper deck, the first class. Ships are always in classes, from the top to the lowest. So those at the top that will likely survive. At the point they locked the door to the lower cabin so that nobody could come up. And if you don't come up, you cannot enter the lifeboat. So you die simply by your class. Your class kills you. It speaks for the ship as well as it speaks for the larger society. Your class cements your death. You die simply because you belong to a particular class. You don't have access to where the source of rescue is because of your class. You bought the peasant ticket. At the point they won't even allow you to come up to where they will put you in the lifeboat. So the writers are those who discern how societies are structured, the problems of society. Or, not the Titanic, but another case of a sinking boat or ship. The law of self-preservation will play out in the sense that everybody is struggling for their own life. At that point, you can't save any other person but yourself. That is the basic instinct of human nature. What about me? What do I stand to gain? Right? In this relationship. What do I stand to gain? How will I survive? And so on and so forth. And you remember that when you're writing, your creative writing. Because the few others who are able to go out their way, overcome that instinct of self-preservation, actually those are counted for as heroes. Few others are able to overcome the instinct for self-preservation, go out their way to help others, probably sacrifice themselves. Like in that sinking ship, the person who says, okay, there's a last spot on the boat, but I don't want to go, you go. With my family, tell them I love them. Understand? But that didn't make it. That one would be a hero, but it's difficult to do. You can even push someone into the water and inside the boat. Understand? Because you want to survive. But the true heroes, I want to say, well, I let you, allow you to. I'm ready to sacrifice myself. You go. Okay? Take this gift, give to my wife and children. Tell them that Daddy loves them. Okay? So you could see it's this same story that resonates with humanity. When Jesus chose to die on the cross of Calvary, right? To save the entire of humanity. Okay? And today we still remember him for that act of bravery. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
So do we have such people in the house today?
Yes. Yes, sir.
There are such people in the house.
Yes, sir.
Who are willing to give their lives to others.
Yes.
Right? For instance, not only your life, let's start with your school fees. You have a fellow, so who is not able to pay school fees. So you say, well, you continue your education, let me stop here. So you take my school fees. You understand? Because I believe in you. I believe in that you do great things. Okay? So instead of you dropping out, let me be the one to drop out. We have such people in the house. Okay, let us talk about the constitution of the human nature. As a creative writer, you need to understand what constitutes human nature. What constitutes human nature? Scholars are divided as to what constitutes human nature. Scholars are divided as to what constitutes human nature. some maintain that human nature is inherently bad or evil. Human nature is inherently bad or evil, while some believe that human nature is nurtured. Human nature is nurtured. Human nature is nurtured. Human nature is nurtured. So we have those who believe in nature and those who believe in nurture. And those who believe in nature and those who believe in nurture. Right? Everyone say nature.
Nature.
Nurture.
Nurture.
Nature.
Nature.
Nurture.
Nurture.
So do you believe in nature or do you believe in nurture? Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Right? So some scholars believe that human nature is inherently evil or bad. That means it comes right from birth. The evil in man comes right from birth. Alright? And speaks to the Adamic nature that is depicted or portrayed in the Bible. And speaks to the Adamic nature of man depicted or portrayed in the Bible. Alright? And is exemplified in how even the child enjoying the mother's breast could fight it for that time. Okay? The child that claims to be innocent will definitely fight the mother. Okay? So it's the reason why, it's the reason children, or everybody needs salvation. Because of that, because of that Adamic nature that you came with, will not allow you to do anything good or be accepted by God except you are transformed, right, through the cleansing blood of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
And then other scholars believed in the tabula rasa. 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 Clean slate.
Clean slate.
Clean slate. Clean slate. Okay? The term is used to describe the human mind at birth. The term is used to describe. Some psychologists use the term to describe the human mind at birth. It's a tabula rasa. It's a clean slate. Okay? Nothing has been written on it. It is neither good nor evil. In fact, it is clean. But through nurture, through what? Nurture. The mind begins to take shape depending on how the child is raised, depending on the experiences of the child in society, depending on who raises the child, and so on and so forth, depending on all the environmental and societal influences, the child behavior will take shape. And that's why some people are rough while others are gentle. Some people are good while others are bad. Okay? Some people are violent while others are kind and calm. It's all about upbringing. It's all about what? Upbringing, or you call nurture. It's not because people are inherently good or bad. It is how the individual was raised. It's a totality. It's some of the totality and the complexity surrounding the individual's upbringing that determines behavior and nature of the individual. While the child was raised by permissive parents, and so on and so forth, what kind of exposure the child had from childhood. That will determine the nature of the individual. So now I'm asking you, is it nature or nurture? Which one do you believe in? Do you believe in nature or nurture? Okay, you believe in nurture, that means you are negating the Bible principle that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Think about it. Okay? And if you believe in nature, then you're saying that it does not matter how the child is raised. The one that will be good will still be good, and the one that will be bad will still be bad. So which one do you believe? Nature or nurture? All right, think about it. Think about it till we meet again next week. Then you tell me your stance with reasons. All right? Have a blessed day.